Welcome. Thank you for coming this morning. Welcome to Glens Falls. Senator Schumer, thank you for coming back again. Over the last 20 years, the City of Glens Falls Fire Department has received 6 of these federal firefighter grants. Things like backup generators and hazmat trainings, firefighting foam equipment, vehicle exhaust capture systems, and self-contained breathing apparatus. These monetary awards have gone towards supporting critical infrastructure and firefighter training and equipment. These types of things do not fall within the regular city budget lines for fire departments and to fully support our emergency services. It's absolutely vital that the City of Glens Falls Fire Department receives these types of awards. And Senator Schumer, we cannot thank you enough for everything you do to continue to push this new legislation and federal funding to all the firefighters and responders to our great state. So now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, New York State Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Mayor Collins, and thank you for the great job you do here in Glens Falls. As you know, I care a lot about this city, and over all the years I've been senator, I've helped Glens Falls out in many different ways, including helping our great fire department. First, it's great to be back here. This is the first time I'm back since the November election, so I thank everybody for electing me. I am blessed. I was just elected to my 5th term. No one else in New York has ever had 5 terms in the Senate. I'm humbled by that. I will work just as hard in my 5th term for New York as I have in the previous 4 terms, so thank you. I also want to thank our great chief, Jamie Schrammel, and the great Glens Falls firefighters who are here with us today. You can relax here. And we thank them. Jim McGowan has been a longtime friend of mine from the Professional Firefighters Association, and Andy Hirsch is here as well. And from over in neighboring Washington County, we have Chief Saunders from the Salem Fire Department. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate your being here. So why are we here today? Because Glens Falls and Capital Region firefighters smell smoke. You see, there's a bit of political smoldering going on in Washington. The 2 main federal firefighter funding programs, AFG and SAFER, are at risk of not being renewed. I helped create these programs 20 years ago with Senator Dodd. I was then a congressman. But I've always believed in our firefighters, because our firefighters are just, they're sort of like, whether they're paid or volunteer, and I imagine there's a paid force here and a volunteer force over in Washington County. They, like our soldiers, they run to danger, towards danger, to make us safe, and they risk their lives. I grew up next door to a firefighter, Joe Noble, and I used to play over at their house. Their daughter Emily and I, we were 3, 4, 5 years old. I always remember when Mary Noble, when the phone rang, she was always worried that it might be the call she dreaded. Every spouse of a firefighter lives through that every day, and that's because of the bravery of the folks here. So we thank you all for the good job that you all do and for your service. And that's why I'm here, because I want to help our firefighters as I continue to do. We will not let this program lapse. As was mentioned by the mayor, in the past 3 years, this is bigger. In the past 3 years, Capital Region firefighters alone, just in 3 years, got $16 million in life-saving federal funding, including $1 million here in Warren and Washington counties. So we can't let those millions for our local firefighters go up in smoke. If these programs weren't around, life-saving equipment and hundreds of New York firefighters that have been hired or recruited in the case of volunteer fire departments, thanks to this funding, might never have happened. Glens Falls received an AFG grant of $17,000 in 2017 to purchase equipment for the annual fit testing of their self-contained breathing apparatus. A year ago, the South Glens Falls Fire Department got a grant of $34,000 for equipment. Last summer, the Saratoga Springs Fire Department received one of the larger SAFER grants in New York State history, $4 million to hire and train 16 new firefighters, and an AFG grant to purchase new breathing equipment. And just last week, we called Chief Saunders of the Salem Fire Department, who's here, to notify him that he'll receive $40,000 for recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters. And so these two grants are both very important. One allows us to actually expend federal dollars to pay for more firefighters, especially in our smaller cities and towns and counties. It costs money, and these folks don't have a big tax base, but they gotta be kept safe. So that's important. And the other grant goes for equipment. The equipment has improved dramatically in the 20 years I've been around, 25 years I've been senator. But it's more expensive. It saves lives. It saves lives of our firefighters, and it saves lives of the people they save. Let me just give you one example, because people don't know these things. They have something called a thermal heating device. Is that what's the thing you show on the wall? Thermal imaging device. And you can hold it up to a wall, and you can see where the fire is behind the wall, even though the wall's still standing. And that means they don't have to tear down the whole wall, and that means they know where the fire is, and it's much safer. But when I started, those things were about $3,000, and they weren't too safe. Now they're about $20,000.
More likely.
Yeah. They're much more expensive, but they're just as vital. And that's the kind of equipment that we need. A firefighter's gear has become much better, so that even in the midst of all smoke, they get good oxygen coming through mask. But that's expensive too. So it's all expensive, and of course one of these pumper trucks could cost $500,000, right?
Sure.
So it's all expensive, it all works. Fewer firefighters are lost and injured, fewer people are lost and injured, but the federal government should always help out. So let me explain how we got here and why we're worried. These programs were authorized every few years, and the last time the fire grants were renewed was 2017, which means it was a 5-year program, so it runs out of money at the end of this year. And the worry is that there are some there in Washington who just want to cut the daylights out of everything. And so that they're trying to say this is one of the programs that should be cut. We cannot let this program be cut. The good news is it has broad bipartisan support. This is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. This is a people issue, an American issue, a firefighter issue. And so we have bipartisan support. The bill was reported out of committee by Gary Peters, who's the chair of the committee from Michigan, and the vast majority of both Democrats and Republicans on the committee supported the legislation. But I say here today to our firefighters, we will not let this expire. Not on my watch. Not on my watch, as long as I'm majority leader. So, because these programs are so vital. Since the start of these programs, which I helped create, as I mentioned, New York State has received $700 million in these programs to help our firefighters from one end of the state to the other. So what's the fix to making sure that the program isn't eliminated? There's a new bill, as I said, Gary Peters put it out. It's called the Fire Grants and Safety Act of 2023. It renews both these programs. And today I'm officially announcing that when we get back from our Easter break in the Senate, I'm going to put it on the floor of the Senate. I dare people to vote against it. I think once I put it on the floor, we'll get it. Our danger is people will try to add extraneous amendments, what's called killer amendments. And we've asked, I think it was 28 fire organizations across the country, you know that, to let their senators know. We don't want BS amendments, frankly, that have nothing to do with this bill to be added to it to try and kill it. Let's just pass this bill and do the politics somewhere else. We're down to the wire, but when it comes to our firefighters, we're going to spare no expense. We want a clean bill, no poison pills, no unnecessary amendments. Put firefighters first. I'm saying to my fellow senators on both sides of the aisle, put firefighters first, pass this bill. Now is not the time for grandstanding. Firefighters risk their lives every day. We can't have them rushing into danger with outdated equipment, not enough manpower. And these programs are one of the only major resources to making sure that happens. So it's time to put on our boots, throw some cold water on the cuts, and save these resources for our Capital Region Fire Departments, which I am pledged to do right here in Glens Falls. you next.
If Mr. McGowan wants to say something, he can.
He's a great guy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. Thanks, I appreciate that. From the New York State Professional Firefighters, we just want to thank the Senator for actually always having our back and representing all the professional firefighters in New York State. Whenever we need him, he's always there. We visit him
All the time.
down in Washington. Actually, we go down a couple of times a year, and whenever we want to meet with him, he is always willing, okay, to meet with us. All right, okay? We appreciate what he does for the professional firefighters and all the professional firefighters that they here in New York State. So, again, we thank you, Senator Schumer, and I appreciate it.
We're going to ask Chief Schrammel to tell us about some of the work.
Right, sure. Thank you, Chief.
Well, first of all, I'd like to, appreciate you, Senator, coming today. Some of the things that we don't realize when we look at money, everybody looks at the dollar figures, but what it means to a department is much more than the money. Our department has received $170,000 over a 20-year period. Doesn't sound like a lot of money. All that money went to provide for the fire department's mission. It helped to keep our firefighters safe in everything they do on a daily basis. It made the situations they get involved in less dangerous. The ventilation system that was put in this building due to the contaminants with the diesel fuel burning vehicles, which is something when a building's built in the 1930s, it was never something thought of. So those things create a much safer environment for our firefighters, whether it's on the fire ground or it's in this building. When you put those type of things to this money that's out there, the AFG grant is provided for our department as well as every volunteer and career department in the state and the nation. These are very important grants, very important funding to ensure that we can keep providing this equipment to keep our firefighters safe on a daily basis, and when necessary to recruit staffing. As we have Chief Saunders here, who is very important for our volunteers, as everybody knows. The staffing are issues not only with the career departments, but with volunteer departments. This assists them in providing adequate, meeting their mission in the volunteer community. So I just appreciate the Senator. I appreciate everything that's him coming today. And more importantly, I appreciate this bill going on the floor and hopefully be passed, because these bills are a lot more than the money. These bills are really about safety and providing for the firefighters and supporting that mission.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody else? Okay, we'll take questions from the media on this subject. Any questions? Okay, well, let's thank our firefighters for all they do, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Easter and Passover and every holiday for everybody coming up. I hope you have a good one with your families. Thank you.